Please don't try these attacks at home. So my question is, how often do we see these in our real world engagements? What role does ADCS play in enterprise security?
And they are not teaching students or
So at this point, you are domain admin, right?
at this point we know that we have domain admin.
Okay.
So see, this is what is missing in all the videos or the training material that is out in the internet. This is what is missing.
Hey guys, welcome to another podcast at Redfox. I am Karan. I am the CEO and Technical Director at Redfox. With me, I have Sashi. Today, we are going to have like a massive session on Active Directory certificate services. We're going to be talking about, what ADCS is, what are certificate templates, how attackers can use them to exploit the entire Active Directory domain. Right, so just to give a brief introduction about ourselves, what we pretty much do is penetration testing services, right from infra to application security to mobile app check to red teams, purple teams, hardware security assessments, and much more. Everything, right? Yeah. So I'll let Shashi introduce himself, and then we can get started with the agenda. Yeah, Shashi.
So yeah guys, my name is Shashi and I am a security consultant at Redfox Security. So I am very excited for today's podcast because this podcast it will be continuing from the previous podcast where I showed you the anti-LM relay attack to exploit the certificate authority. This time we are going to be using certificate templates to exploit certificate authority. So yeah, very exciting podcast today.
Yes. Excellent. So, what we are going to cover is, 3 attack vectors. The agenda is going to be, we're going to be talking about ESC1, ESC2, ESC3. Don't worry about what they are. We are going to get more deeper into what they exactly mean. But, to start off with, let's start with, understanding ADCS.
Yeah. So guys, so let's discuss the agenda. Then you can
absolutely
go ahead. So yeah, so for today's agenda, we will be looking at the basics of Active Directory certificate services, what they are, what role they have in the enterprise environment. Then we will be looking at different attack vectors. We will be looking at escalation technique 1, 2, 3. All these are related to certificate templates, and then we will see how we can prevent it. Yeah. So yeah.
So what exactly is Active Directory certificate services or ADCS? Commonly.
So ADCS is a server role in Windows operating systems that allows organizations to implement public key infrastructure in their Active Directory domain. So it allows them to use a digital certificate as well as the use of asymmetric encryption for various kind of security applications. So that's what Active Directory certificate services are.
And so my question is, how often do we see these in our real world engagements?
So I would say if the client has implemented these ADCS in their environment, then there I would say that more than 80 to 90% chances are there that they have configured it in a vulnerable way. So it's quite frequent.
Yeah, and we briefly spoke about ESC1. Actually, we just introduced it. How often do you see these attack vectors in a domain, in an Active Directory domain?
As I told that. These templates we are seeing vulnerable every time when, as I said you that whenever the company has implemented ADCS, there are high chances that the certificate templates that they have created are vulnerable. So because of small mistakes that the sysadmins are making, because of them these certificates are getting vulnerable, and we are seeing it in everyday life. We are seeing that they are vulnerable. We are basically very easily exploiting this kind of attacks in our daily engagements.
Cool. And just to build up on that, what role does ADCS play in enterprise security?
Okay. So ADCS provides a better security as compared to a normal authentication, if you say, because ADCS also provide a secure way of client authentication. So using ADCS, basically ADCS provides you digital certificate, and via using the digital certificate you can authenticate to a client. So it's much more secure than password based authentication. It also provide you encryption capability, so you can encrypt your files or devices, or it also provides code signing abilities. So it provides a lot of security applications in an enterprise environment.
Okay. And what are the common uses and why is it so important?
So it's why ADCS is important. As I mentioned that ADCS can be used for various security applications. So these security applications are like your client authentication, email encryption, or code signing. So since ADCS provide these security applications, sysadmins can use these application, these functionalities in their environment, and then they can make secure client authentication, or they can secure their files via encrypting them, as well as they can also secure their codes by signing the codes.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot of information. Now, let's move into the actual, the fun part, which is the exploitation part. We'll cover each one of them in a particular order. Yeah. And then the fun part here is that we have practicals. So stay tuned, guys. We have like excellent practicals with this in this podcast series, right? So let's start off with. Okay. Before we start that, let's talk about the components of ADCS.
So we can go to the attacks, but that's what is taught in most of the courses. They are directly going to the attacks, and they are not teaching students or students about these components of Active Directory certificate services. So I would say that if you learn the very basics of Active Directory certificate services, then the attacks will make more sense. So that's why I put this slide purposely, so that they can understand what each of the components of ADCS are, and I am going to show them the practically how this component looks like in the Active Directory domain, so that they can get a clear idea. Okay. So let's start with the components. So the first thing that we have is the certificate authority itself. So it's a trusting entity which is responsible for management as well as issuance of digital certificates. So that's the certificate authority. Next we come to the certificate templates. So think of certificate templates as a blueprint. So it has a predefined set of configurations which the client can ask for, and the certificate that is generated using the certificate template, the certificate will inherit all those configurations. So this is what certificate template is.
And that's why we have the word templates. Right?
Yeah, it's a blueprint. And then we have the certificate itself. So a certificate is a digitally signed document which can be used for various purposes that we just talked about. They are encryption, message signing, as well as authentication. So these are the basics, but now I am going to show you practically how these things looks like in Active Directory domain. So you will get a better idea. So let's go to the practicals, and then I will show you how these actually work. Before that, let me just explain this thing, because I think it's very important before going to practical. So just one thing I want to explain here, like how does a certificate sign request works in Active Directory certificate services. So let's suppose that there is a client, and they want message signing capabilities or code signing capabilities via digital certificates. So the first thing that they will do, the client will generate a public and private key pair, and then the client will generate a CSR. CSR stands for a certificate signing request. So in that certificate signing request, it will have the subject of the certificate, which is the name of the client. Then we have the certificate template that the client is asking, and it also has the EKU. EKU stands for extended key uses, which is the intended purpose of that certificate. And then it will encrypt that certificate signing request with its own private key, and then it will send the request to the enterprise server. Okay. And what enterprise server will do, it will have some verification, because no one can just send a request and it will directly accept it, right? So what CA will do, it will first verify whether the client is allowed to enroll in the certificate or not. The second thing, it will check whether the client has the EKUs that client has provided, whether that EKUs are present in that certificate template or no. So these two are very important. The enrollment on the certificate template as well as whether the EQ is valid or not. If all these things matches, then the certificate authority or the enterprise CA will create a digital certificate and it will sign the digital certificate with its own private key, with the CS private key, and it will send that certificate to the client. And then client, they can use that certificate for the EQ that they have defined, which is the code signing capabilities. So this is how the certificate signing request looks like. So I think it's good that we have discussed it before going to the practical so that the audience can get a better idea.
Exactly. So
Let's
guys, before we move on, there's just a disclaimer. Please don't try these attacks at home. These are serious attacks. Stay ethical, stay responsible. All of this that we are doing it in a contained environment, which has been designed by us. So please don't try hacking your own organization. It is very, critical that you stay responsible. Yeah, Shashi.
Yeah. So let's go to the practical. As Karan mentioned that the practical we are going to show, it's the lab that we have prepared to showcase all the attack vectors. So yeah, let's, right now I am a domain joined machine and let me go to the domain controller just so that they can get an idea of what are the things at. So let me just search this thing. Let me just search for certificate authority. And just before that, let me also search for server manager. Okay. So people might be thinking that I am talking about certificate authority and why I am going to a domain controller. So you can also install a certificate authority on a domain controller. In addition, so certificate authority can be installed on a server as well as it can also be installed on a domain controller. So that's why this is the domain controller on which the certificate authority is installed. And if you see, there is ADCS role installed here. So that's why I am saying that this domain controller is also acting as a certificate authority because of this role.
But like in other cases, you may see a different scenario altogether.
Where there is a server apart from a DC and on that server the certificate authority is installed. So let's switch to this certificate authority tab. Let me just minimize it. Okay, anyway. So yeah, let's just go to certificate authority and just maximize it. Okay. So this is the name of the certificate authority, which is secure CA. So as this CA is installed on a domain controller, it can have a different name. It's not necessary that it should have the name of the DC. It can have a different name. So this is the certificate authority that
so is this the root CA as well?
Yeah, this is the root CA as well. So this is this certificate authority, this is the trusting entity. So everybody trusts it. Domain controller users, everyone trusts this. So whatever certificate it generates, it will be trusted by everyone. Okay. So this is the certificate authority. And these are the certificate templates. These are the ones that are issued. Then we have some requests which are failed request, pending request, installed, issued certificates and revoked certificates. So, but the main thing here is the certificate templates. So these are the certificate templates that are issued. So let me just show the audience that how a certificate is generated and what is how the client can use that certificate for various purposes. So let's do that quickly. So how you can create a certificate? Let's go to manage. And these are all the certificates. It is not necessary that all of them are issued, but these are all the certificates that are present in a certificate authority. So let's create a scenario where the client, the same scenario that we talked about when discussing the certificate sign request. So there is a requirement that client wants a code signing certificate so that they can sign the code. And why they require to sign a code? Because so there are scenarios where the system patches are going on and different code are pushed. So at that time, it is very necessary that the code should be signed so that if an unauthorized body has made any changes, so while verification, it will be clear that the code has changed and it will not be pushed to the production. So that's why we require code signing. So let's just create the template using, so how the people are creating template, direct click, let's duplicate the template and then let's create a name. So let's write a code sign template. Okay, and in the security tab, let's make this. Let's suppose that this certificate can be used by all the authenticator, all the domain user. So this time let's add domain users group here. Let's add it, and we will allow them the enrollment right here. Okay, so that they can enroll. So this is one of the misconfiguration that can happen in the environments. So let's suppose there's a scenario where only few users require this code signing ability. But what the sysadmins are doing, they are just granting the rights to the domain users to enroll in this. That's where the misconfiguration happens, and that's what we will see going on. So now let me just, now we will have to in the extension, if you can see that it is used for code signing. Okay, I think yeah, that's enough.
So a quick question. So this screen that you have shown, so these templates are not enabled right now, right?
Yeah, correct. Right now I'm creating, I will now issue them.
Okay.
Then they will be enabled.
Okay.
Okay. So let's apply. And then, yeah, it will, now it's trying to create that template. It will take few seconds. So let's just wait for few seconds. Yeah, let's click OK. Now the template is created. It doesn't necessarily means it is issued. So now let's issue this template. If you go back to this tab and just right click, new certificate template to issue. And this time let's go to the code signed template. Let's click OK. Now if you can see here, now this template is issued. Okay, now the clients can, or the domain users can use this certificate for code signing. So we will see how they can do that. So let's switch back to the our normal domain joined computer, which is this WS01. Right now we are not a domain controller, we are on just a normal user machine. So let me just come here, because I'm getting difficult to see the screen. Okay, I hope. Looks like another tool has opened, which we already discussed in the previous podcast, but this time let's focus on this one. So yeah, so let's go to, let me just open command line here, and let's open Microsoft Management Console. And right now I'm going to create open a console that can help in requesting a certificate. So let's do that. So file, just add a snap in. We need the certificate snap. So just add it. We need for user account, which is already logged in. And then let's click OK. Now this will show all the certificates that are related to current user in this domain. Okay. So if we see that right now there is no certificate issue for this user, so let's quickly request a certificate. This is where the certificate signing request will go, that we just talked about. Okay. So let's do that. Let's click on all tasks and request new certificate. Click next, and then next. And if you see, I think, yeah, so this is the template that we are going to use for signing the code. So let's select this code signing template. Then we will click on enroll. Now we are enrolled in this. Now we can just export the certificate and use the certificate for code signing. So this is the certificate that is issued to the Fox user, and it is issued by our secure CA, is the certificate authority that
which is the domain controller.
Which is the domain controller in our case. And if you see the intended purpose of this certificate, it is only intended for code signing. We cannot authenticate using this certificate in a domain. Okay. So let's quickly export this certificate so that we can use it. So all properties, export. Yeah. So these are just the default options, and let's save it somewhere. Let's save it in the downloads folder. Let's call it as code sign. Then we can just save it. So this is CER is one of the format of our certificate. We can have PFX as well. So yeah, let's click next, and all things look good, and then we will just finish it, and the export was successful. And if we go to the downloads folder, we have the code signing certificate, and using this certificate we can sign a code. So let me just show that as well, how we can use this certificate to sign the code. So yeah, let me just move this certificate in this folder where we have a sign tool which can be used for signing as well as for verification of the certificate. So yeah, let me just open the command line. My bad. I think I have to again send it here. Open the command prompt here. Yeah. So now we are going to sign a code. So we already have a code here which is system info. This is a script. We can sign the script using this certificate template and using the this sign tool. So let's quickly sign that. I hope I remember the command here. Yeah, name of the tool, then we will use the sign module, and then we will specify the name of the certificate, which will be, I think it's a code sign.cer, and then we will specify the algorithm which can be specified using the flags FD, and let's use SAR256, and then we will specify the name of our file or the script that we are going to sign here. So let's sign that. If you see, successfully signed the systeminfo.ps1. Now let's verify this, whether whether basically we are going to sign it and see whether this script has been tampered with or not. So right now we have not made any changes, so let's verify it. So again, same tool can be used, sign tool. This time we will go for verification. Verify. Let's use the V flag for verbose, and let's use this. We are going to use a TA flag, and then we will specify the name of the file. Okay. Okay, I think it's something different. I guess it's TD. Okay, let me just quickly check the command. I think it's PA. Okay, sorry, my bad. I think it's yeah. If you see here, now if you see, the successfully verified this file. Okay, and the number of files successfully verified is 1. Now let's suppose there is an attacker and they have access to this code, and they can modify this code, right? So let's quickly modify this code, and then we will again verify whether it's the verification is successful or not. So let me just edit this file and let's write some malicious code. Okay, this is not a C# code, it's just a dummy string. Let's suppose that attacker has made changes in this code, and before pushing this code in the production, we have pipelines. In the pipelines we can just verify the code as well. Okay, so let's quickly do the verification again. Let me just save this file with this modified code, and yeah, again let's try to sign the code. Let's try to verify the code. Let me just clear the screen. Again we will verify the script, and this time if you see, there is an error. Okay, the digital signature of the object did not verified, and the number of files successfully verified is 0. So before pushing the update, the pipeline will not push the code in the supply chain. And that's how we can use the digital certificates. That's what we saw in this case. It can be used for signing the code, so that attackers cannot tamper with the code. So this is one of the use cases of ADCS certificate service.
Okay. Yeah. For code signing, right?
For code signing.
Okay.
So yeah, so see, this is what is missing in all the videos or the training material that is out in the internet. This is what is missing.
Okay. People actually don't know what is code signing, what are certificates used for. Okay. Excellent. This is actually a good reminder as to how folks within the Active Directory domain, they use certificates. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Okay. So
and then we can just continue. Yeah, so we discussed certificate signing request, and then we just saw a practical component as well.
Perfect. Now comes the attacking part. This is going to be the fun part. As usual, this is what we do, on most of our engagements. We are still seeing ESC1 very heavily misconfigured, I would say. So we'll talk about more details. So let's start off with what is ESC1, and then we'll build from there, right? So Shashi, what's ESC1?
So ESC1 is an escalation technique which can abuse a misconfigured template. Okay. And what is the misconfiguration here? So misconfiguration is in the template that it allows for subject alternative names to be specified in a template. Okay. So that's the vulnerability here.
Okay. So question is there misconfiguration in a property, or what is it? So, what's the misconfiguration?
So it's the misconfiguration is in the sysadmin that's doing that, because by default this option is not enabled. Okay. But because of some applications, there are scenarios where we can enable this subject alternative name property, and we can use it for let's suppose you want to have a certificate for some, basically one client can ask certificate as some different person. Okay. But the issue is here that when they are creating the certificate, first they are allowing the subject alternative name, and the second thing that they are doing, they are allowing low privilege users to enroll in that certificate. So that is the vulnerability here. Okay. These two things combined is the vulnerability here. Okay.
Excellent. So, and how can an attacker actually exploit this or exploit ESC1 and compromise the domain?
Yeah. So, first of all, let me talk about I would say the inventors of these kind of attacks. Let's which are Will Strodel and Lee Christian. They have done excellent work on ADCS, and they have in their white paper or the research paper that they have launched, I would say that in that they have shown all the techniques here. So using this, they have also, while creating that research paper, they have implemented a very nice tool which is called certify.exe. It's a Windows executable. We can use this certify.exe tool to exploit ESC1, ESC2 and all these certificate based attacks. This tool has also been ported in CertiPy as well, which is the Python version of this tool. So in most of my engagements, I use CertiPy just because it's I feel like it's easier than Certify. So that's why I use CertiPy. So using CertiPy, we can abuse this ESC1. Okay. So basically, we will first enumerate the certificates, and then we will see it. The tool will show you that this certificate is vulnerable for ESC1. And then using the Certify tool, we can request a certificate for a domain administrator. Since we can, as we just mentioned, since we as a client or a user can specify another alternate name for the certificate, we will go for a high privilege user, which is the domain administrator. Okay. And once we get a certificate for the domain administrator, then we can just authenticate in the domain using the domain administrator. Okay. And we all know what will happen if they have the
So this is kind of like privilege escalation from domain user to domain admin, right? Okay, cool. So let's get on to the practicals. We'll showcase, what's going on, and then before we move to how we fix this.
So guys, let's go to the practicals, and then I will show you how easily it is to exploit these. So if I am starting the engagement, and that's when I run this Certify tool, that's the first thing I do in my engagement to enumerate the certificate templates. So if there is a certificate template that is vulnerable to ESC1 or any of the templates, I think it's game over. In just about 15 minutes of the start of the engagement, we are pawning the domain. So that's how easy this attack is. So since this is an easy attack and it has a higher impact, I think our audience should be, or all the security professionals, be it attackers or the defenders, should be, when I say attackers, I mean security professionals.
ethical hackers.
Yeah, they should be aware about these kind of attacks. Okay. So let's go to the practical. So I am on a Kali machine, so I am going to use Certify. You can use Certify as well. It's just a preference. So let's.
So before you start off, this is the practical is done in an Active Directory domain.
So this system, this Kali system is not a domain joined machine. It's just a disjoint machine.
It's
So it doesn't matter.
it's just on the network.
So basically, what we are showcasing here is the breach simulation.
Okay.
So let's suppose via phishing or via password spraying, we have a cracks of a user, and now and that user is a low privilege user. Now how we can use that low privilege user credential to become a domain administrator? So this is the escalation technique, which is ESC1.
And it's very difficult for attackers to catch this, right?
Yeah, this is very easily to catch.
It's easy to catch.
Yeah, it's
okay.
No, it's not easy. Sorry, I thought you were asking whether how easy is to attack. Yeah. So in case of detection, if you're asking, it's very difficult to detect. Why? Basically, you have to go to the certificate authority and you have to see what kind of authentication is happening. So if there is a authentication that is happening from a low privilege user, to ask for a certificate as a domain administrator, then it's a sus there, right? So that's this kind of things the domain administrator or the IT administrator has to see.
Okay.
So yeah, a bit difficult to catch, but it's not if you
it's not impossible, but it's difficult to catch. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
let's start off. Yes.
So as everything, we start with the enumeration. So let's enumerate. So we have this amazing tool which is Certify. And then we are going to use the find module to find a template. Let's use the username. Let's suppose that we have a user that we have, which is David, and the password is DIVAD @ So this is the password, and we will specify the name or the IP address of the DC, which is DC IP 10.11.15.100. This is the IP address of the DC, and then we will use flags which are we only want to get the templates that are vulnerable. That's why we have the vulnerable flag. Then we will use the enabled flag. So this will show only the templates that are enabled. So you can only enroll in the certificate which is enabled. That's why. And then we will, for our convenience, we will just output it in the standard console window. So let's do that. I hope the command is pretty clear. Okay. So now if you see, so this is the CA, which is the secure CA, and if you see the DNS name, it is the name of our domain controller. Because we just talked about that in our case the CA is installed on a domain controller. That's why. And it is vulnerable to all kinds of attack. ESC7, ESC8 is the one that we discussed in the previous podcast, which is again a very easy attack. And then this is vulnerable to ESC3, ESC2, and then it is also vulnerable to ESC4 as well and ESC1. So today we are going to be talking about ESC1, 2, 3. So we are going to be starting with ESC3. Okay. So now we know that there is a certificate template. Let's go to the properties. So name of the template is secure template. Second thing, this is enabled. And third and most important thing, this template is enabled for client authentication. So we can use this template for authenticated to the domain. And the third and the most important thing is that enrollee's supply subject is set to true. It means that a client or a user can specify an alternate name for enrolling in a certificate. Okay. So yeah, so the beauty about this tool is that it will also show you that which escalation techniques you can use. And yeah, if you can see that domain users can enroll in this certificate. So every user in a domain is part of domain users group. So that's what we see in our engagement as well. Most of the time is either authenticated user or a domain users. So it's very easy to catch as well. If we can just see this, it's giving enrollments to domain users.
So at this point, you know you are domain admin, right?
At this point, we know that we have domain admin.
Okay.
And in just 3 steps, it's game over. First is the enumeration. The second step, we will get the certificate. Third step, we will get the hash or the TGT of the domain admin. Okay. So the first step is done. Let's go to the second step, which is again certify. This time, let's request. Let's use, this time, let's request. Then same user, we can specify since this user is a part of a domain users group. Password is your @@@. Let's specify the name of the template. which was secure template, and then we will specify the name of the CA, certificate authority, which is secure CA in our case. And we will also give the target, which is the DNS name of the certificate authority, so that this tool can reach out to that authority. So in our case, it's dc02.security.redfox.local. I hope I have typed it correct. And certify request. Okay, so let's again go to this command, and and now the important thing is we have to provide the UPN, which is the universal principal name. Here we can specify the name of a domain administrator @security.redfox.local. So let me just repeat the command. So we are using certify tool, and request is for requesting a certificate. Then we are specifying the name of user and the password. Then we using the template flag, we will specify the name of the template. Then we will specify the name of the certificate authority. Then the DNS name of the certificate authority server. Then the UPN, which is the universal principal name. And this is where, as a David user, we can ask certificate for a administrator.
Domain admin.
Why? Because this certificate allows for subject alternative name. That's why. And it also allows the low privilege users to.
So 3 conditions.
Yeah.
One is client authentication.
Correct.
It has to be enabled.
Yep.
And the flag that you spoke about.
Subject alternative name.
Subject alternative.
Or we can say enroll is supply subject.
Okay.
And the third thing is the
Domain users
can enroll in this.
Okay. So these are the conditions needed for ESC1.
ESC1.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So let me just request a certificate for, as a David user, let me request a certificate for administrator for this template, which for this vulnerable template. So as we can see, now we have the certificate of a domain administrator. And since this certificate allows for client authentication, we can authenticate using this certificate template. So what like not a normal users will just authenticate to the domain. We as a pen testers or red teamers or ethical hackers, we can use this certificate and extract the we can request a TGT from the domain controller, and using from the TGT we can also extract the hash of the domain admin. So which can be used for persistence as well, or which can be used for like dumping all the hashes in the domain.
And so this certificate.
This is the second part.
Yeah, so the certificate itself is valid for a very long time as well, right? So
yeah, so the certificate timing, if we just go here, and we will also show you, I think, the time of the certificate. So if you see, the validity period is 1 year. So if we compromise the certificate of a domain administrator, even if they change their password, this certificate is still valid for client authentication. Okay. So yeah, so that's the second part, and now we can just authenticate using this certificate. So let's do that. Certify, we'll use the auth module, then we'll specify the certificate file, which is administrator.pfx, and then we will specify the DCIP, which is 10.11.15.100. And if you see, first using this certificate, this is the principal name that it is using basically it is authenticating as domain admin, and then it is getting a TGT. So and then it is saving the TGT as administrator.cache file, and from this TGT we can also extract the anti-random hash of the administrator. So we can use so basically the tool is using the unpack the hash attack to extract the hash anti-random hash from the
domain controller,
from the TGT.
From the TGT. Okay.
So if we just quickly just do that, if you see, this is the cache file, which is the TGT, and this is the certificate. Okay. And using this TGT, it is extracting the, basically it is using the U2U extension of Kerberos to request a valid TGT, and in that TGT, when we are opting for a PK init authentication, and then in that TGT, it will have the anti-hash password of the domain administrator as well, in the pack component of the TGT. Okay. And using the U2U extension of Kerberos, we can extract that. Okay. So yeah, maybe in some future video, maybe I will go in more detail about this unpack the hash attack. Okay. But for now, I think it's enough. So yeah, this is how in 3 steps: enumeration, requesting the certificate, and then authenticating and getting the hash of the administrator.
So that's how easy it is.
That's how easy it. If you see, it hardly took me 10 minutes with the explanation. In our engagement, we can just in few minutes, 2, 3, 5 minutes, we are getting to the domain administrator.
Okay. Wow.
with all the security they have in their domains. If they are done this simple misconfigurations, the game over there.
Game is over right there.
In the prevention part, I will also show you how you can defend it.
Okay.
As well.
Cool. So now we'll talk about the prevention, right?
Let's talk about the prevention. So how you can prevent this attack. So let me just show you directly live how you can prevent this attack. Okay.
So we are talking about prevention of ESC1. Okay.
So let's go to manage.
So right now you're on the domain controller.
Right now I'm on the domain controller. Sorry.
Okay.
So right now I have switched to the domain controller. And I think it was the secure template, if I'm not, So if we go to the properties, so let's see the vulnerabilities first. Okay. So that's what is happening here. So by default, this option is enabled. Okay, this is by default. But because of some security reasons or maybe some for applications, they are using this supply in request. So basically this functionality is made for high privilege users so that they can request a certificate for someone else. But that is okay. It's a valid option. But what they are doing is that if you go to this security option and if you see the domain users, if you see they are allowing anyone to enroll in this certificate.
That's the issue.
That's the issue. Okay. Generally, they should have, ideally they should have a domain admins to be enrolling in this certificate or maybe some other group or high privilege group that can enroll in this template. So what they can do, first thing that they can do, so first of all, they can just disable this option if they don't require it. So that's the first prevention they can do. They can just enable this option. If let's suppose they need this for business purpose, what they can do, they can just go to the security tab and remove the domain users from here. So let's click here and remove here. Or maybe then they can just deselect this option. Okay, let me just remove this because it's not needed here. Okay. And I think one more important thing is here. Let's go to the general tab. This is the validity and there is one more property here. Let me just find that property real quick if I can. I think this is the requirement. So since this is a high privilege template, right? Because this is made for a domain administrator to ask certificates for other clients. What they can do, they can also enable this option. So this is like a 2FA, two-factor authentication. Basically, for every request for enrollment comes to the certificate authority. Now, before it is the responsibility of a certificate manager to approve that request. At that time, they can see who is asking for that certificate. So this is the option that they can enable for two-factor authentication. So these three options. Subject name, they can change it to this option, but if they require it, then they can just enable it and then change the security and remove the domain users or the low privilege users from here. I think we can also remove this authenticated users. Looks like authenticated user is not allowed to enroll, so that's okay. And the third requirement is they can just enable the certificate manager approval. So these are the options that they can use. And I have just disabled the domain users from that security descriptor. So this is how they can prevent it. So if we can again just quickly use the certify tool to find that certificate, the secure certificate, we know that is vulnerable. And we click here, enter here. So if you see, there is no secure template here which is vulnerable. We have other templates which are vulnerable for other kind of escalation, but ESC1 is not present here. So that's how they can, that's how easy is to protect it. So that's the detection part here. So let me just switch to the slides. So these are, in brief, let me just explain that these are the three requirements that we just talked about, and this is how we can enumerate, and this is how we have exploited it, and practical I have already shown, and this is how we can propagate the same things that I have just shown there. Okay. So for the viewers, they can just pause it here and they can just view it. Check it out, yeah.
Cool. So now that was ESC1. Now let's talk about what is ESC2. What needs to be misconfigured in order for an attacker to exploit the ESC2 situation. And then we can get into the practicals, the same thing. And at the same time, like once you finish the practicals, let's talk about the fix as well, right? So
in case of ESC2, it's very similar to ESC1. So only difference is that in case of ESC1, the certificate should allow client authentication, and in case of ESC2, the certificate template should allow any purpose EKU or no EKU. It means that if there is any purpose EKU set, it means that it is allowed for all the intended purposes. It can allow for client authentication as well. So think of ESC2 as a superset of ESC1. So in ESC1 we have just the client authentication. In ESC2 we have the any purpose EKU set. As the name suggests, is any purpose, it can be used for client authentication. And the other requirements are same as for ESC1, which is the first requirement is the low privilege users can enroll in the certificate. Second requirement is that a subject the enrollee can supply a subject alternative name. And the third one is we talked about is that it should have the purpose, the EKU set is the any purpose EKU. Yeah, it's just a superset of ESC2, which is this the ESC2 is not that popular when we are in our engagement. Most of the time we are seeing ESC1, ESC4, ESC8, but sometimes there are scenarios we have seen ESC2 and ESC3 as well. So yeah, so that's why you have to understand each and every escalation techniques.
Okay, and the next question is, what kind of tools are you going to be using to exploit ESC2?
Yeah, it's the same certified tool.
It's the same
tool. So it's a one-in-all tool. It can be used.
Okay, perfect.
So yeah, this is the ESC tool. Same thing. We will enumerate, exploit, and then
go to the practicals.
Let me just go to the,
yeah.
So let's go to the practicals of ESC2. Yeah. Again, same thing. We will start off with the enumeration. So let's enumerate. Okay, here. So we have this another secure template. We see how secure these templates are. So yeah, if you see this another secure template, it's showing ESC1, ESC2, ESC3. Why it's showing all these three ones? Because it's any purpose EKU. It means it can be used for client authentication, code signing, email encryption, everything. Anything. Yeah. So let's go to the flags or the requirements first. This template is enabled. Then it can be used for client authentication. Why? Because it has any purpose set to true. And then it also has this enrollee supply subject. That's what we saw in case of ESC1 as well. And low privilege users can enroll in this certificate. And the tool is also showing the same thing for ESC2, that domain users from the security.redfox.local domain can enroll in this certificate, and the template can be used for any purpose. We are going to use for client authentication and getting the hash or the TGT of the domain administrator. So that's the enumeration part. So the commands will be same. Certify, request, and yeah, as you can see, the commands are exactly the same. First we will request using the David user, which is the low privilege user. Template we have to change. Let me just auto complete this command. Let me just change the template name.
The template name was another secure template.
Another secure template. Okay. And this is the name of the CA. Same things. DC name as DNS name, and the UPN will be the administrator or any high privilege user. Okay. Let's again request the certificate.
So you could basically ask a certificate of any user.
Any user we can ask. If you really want, I can ask for. Let's ask for. Using the David user, let's ask for a Fox user. There is a user with name Fox, and we can have the certificate of Fox user as well. Okay. But since this Fox user, so while enumeration, you will know which users are the high privilege user. Basically, the users of a domain admins group. That's what we are after. Okay. So now we have the certificate of domain administrator. We can again do the same thing. Let me clear my screen. Certify auth, and the same thing. As I said, it's just a variation of ESC1. And again, we will get the anti-hash or the anti-LM hash of the domain admin, as well as the TGT of the. We can authenticate it any of the two using TGT, as well as the. There are scenarios in our engagement I have seen that they have disabled the anti-LM authentication. So at that time, instead of using this anti-hash, you can use the TGT using Kerberos authentication.
Ccache file, right?
Ccache file, and you can just do any operation as domain administrator.
And there are times when you convert that to .kirby and use Ruby as well, right?
Using this, correct. Using this cache file, we can, if you are going on a Windows Windows system, you can just change this to a okay, sir.
Ticket
I
converter.
I think I misinterpreted. Yeah, using the ticket converter, you can convert the cache file into a TGT, which is the Kirby file.
Kirby file.
Yeah. So yeah, I think let's go to the prevention.
Yeah. So now let's talk about the prevention. I think you'll give a practical itself, right?
Yeah, actually, I have not prepared for practicals, but since we are going with the practicals, then let me just directly show them.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I thought that I will show them via slide, but since we are,
It's much easier.
yeah, it's much easier and easy to understand how they can just.
This is specifically important for sysadmins, right?
Yeah. So again, let's go to the certificate authority, which is the domain controller in our case. What we can, I think it was another secure template. So this is the one. Again, let's look at the properties. So same things. I think as I said, it's a variation. So what's the different thing from ESC1? If you go to the extensions part, if you see there is no application policy. It means it's any purpose. Okay, I think it's a none. It means that it doesn't have any EKU.
Okay.
So if there are two types of EKUs, which is none or any purpose. So if any of them are there, you can just you can use it. So it isn't a problem. So yeah, again, the best thing you can do, if you look at the security, we can just remove this.
Yeah, the enrollment rights.
Enrollment rights. I think this is the one. This is the domain. Maybe we can remove from that domain as well. So let me just remove this. We can also remove this. Let's remove every misconfiguration here. And I think, and we can also enable for this. Where is that assurance requirement? We can enable for this. We can require for manage approval. Yeah. The best thing is that we can just disable this this option, but there are situations where the client needs this option. So that's what they can do. Then let's apply it. Click OK. Let's go to the Kali machine. Let's quickly find the certificate. Find the certificates. And this time, if we see, we don't have another secure template which is vulnerable.
Because you fixed it.
Because I fixed it.
Okay.
So that's how easy it is to fix it.
Excellent.
Okay. So yeah, let's again go to the slides. Oh yeah. So yeah, practical we have already seen, and the prevention component also we have seen.
Okay, so before we move on, guys, if you're enjoying this video, please like, share, subscribe to our channel. We're trying our very best to get you, content of pen testing that we're actually doing during engagements. So, please like, share, and subscribe. Right, so now we'll move on to probably the last section, which is ESC3. Same routine. Shashi, what is ESC3? And then we can move on to the practicals.
Yeah. So this is one of the certificate that I found was difficult to understand. And my fellow pen testers are also finding this particular ESC3 to understand why this is, what is the misconfiguration and why we are able to exploit this. So for our audience, let me just simplify it. So let's suppose you have a smart card, and using that smart card, you are going to IT administrator for verification. Then that IT administrator will send a verification request on your behalf. Okay. So let's suppose if somehow you can become that IT administrator, then you can send a verification request for any of the user, right? On behalf of any user. Okay. You can send for normal user or administrator user. Any
user.
So this IT administrator, let's call it as enrollment agent in case of ADCS. So if we have the certificate of an enrollment agent, then we can ask certificates for any of the on behalf of any user.
Any user. If we have that.
If we have the enrollment agent certificate.
Agent certificate. Okay.
Yeah. So there are two requirements here. Basically, we need two templates here. First one, which is the template of the enrollment agent, and the second thing, using that enrollment agent certificate, we can request another template. Using the another template, we can request a certificate for that template using the enrollment agent certificate. Okay. So this certificate must have the client authentication enabled. Okay. So that using this template, we can request a certificate for this template on behalf of another user. Okay. So that's simply that's what ESC3 is. Using enrollment agent certificate, we are exploiting another certificate on behalf of some another user.
Okay, understood.
And which
So
is
it's
the
kind
another
of
user we are going to target again?
domain admin.
Domain admin.
Right. So it's kind of like a man in the middle, right?
Yeah, not particularly man in the middle, but you can say
you're
that.
chaining
I'm
two
chaining.
templates, right? Okay.
So yeah, these are the two requirements for two of the certificates. So the first one is that on the enrollment agent template, first thing, the low privilege user can request the certificate, and the second thing is that the template has certificate request agent EKU or any purpose EKU. We know that any purpose means everything. So it also has the certificate request agent. But the main thing here is the certificate request agent EKU set on the certificate template to be vulnerable for ESC3. And the second template should have the first thing that we have the low privilege user can request the certificate, and the certificate we request will allow for client authentication. And there is already a built-in certificate in ADCS, which is the user template. So using this certificate enrollment agent certificate, we can request a certificate for the user template on behalf of administrator user, and then using that administrator user certificate that we get from the certificate authority, we can just log in as the domain administrator.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's
so that's
see-
complicated this attack is.
Yeah. Let's move on to the practicals for ESC3.
Yeah. So yeah, that same stuff, enumeration, then we'll do exploitation, and then we will get to the domain admin credentials. Okay, let's do that. So again, let's start with enumeration. Okay. So this certificate is vulnerable to ESC4. Maybe in the next podcast we can talk about ESC4 in the end of the upcoming podcast. But let's focus on the ESC3. So yeah, we have this template here, which name is EA template. I have kept it as EA. Why? For enrollment agent template to simplify it. But it can have any name, and it is enabled. If you see, this certificate particularly is not enabled for client authentication, but the enrollment agent is set to true. Okay, and it don't have this enrollment supply subject. It just have an enable true, and enrollment agent is set to true. And most important thing is, if you look at the permissions, enrollment permissions, low privilege users can enroll in this template. So let's enroll in this template. And let me also, I think you are not seeing the user template. Why? Because it's not vulnerable by default. So let me just remove this vulnerable flag here. And if you see, now you can see there are many more templates. If you see, there is another template which is called user, which is enabled, and it can be used for client authentication. So using the previous template, the EA template, we can get certificate as domain administrator for this user template, and we can authenticate to the domain. So these are the two templates that we are going to require. Okay. So let's do that. Again, same tool. I think shout out to the contributor of this tool, which is Oliver Lack. So shout out to him for creating such a wonderful tool. Certify request. User will be David. Password will be. Yeah, let me just use the same command. Okay, I think it's removed. This time we will ask for the EA template, which is the enrollment agent template. Okay, I think things are okay. I think I made a mistake here. It is not the name of the template. We have to put the name of the CA, which is secure CA, and we see how secure this certificate authority. Like when I'm laughing, because I'm not laughing at my lab, I'm laughing at the engagement that I'm seeing. Same thing is happening there. Okay, I think yeah. Let's request the certificate for this enrollment agent template. Yeah, now we have a certificate of this enrollment agent template. The name of the certificate is david.ppfx. It means that David user is now the enrollment agent here. Because they have acquired the certificate using the EA template, which is the enrollment agent template. Now they have become an enrollment agent. and now they can request a certificate on behalf of any other user using another certificate that allows for client authentication.
Okay. So again, now you're going to be targeting the user
template, which is the by default template that we'll see. So certify request, and then we will use the same user. I am again requesting for another certificate. Then template, we can define user template. Name of the CA is the secure CA. Target tc02.security.redfox.local. I hope all things are good. Yeah. Now the most important thing is that on behalf of flag, on behalf of which target user, which is our target user again? Administrator. Security /administrator. So actually I have two domains and both have administrator. That's why I'm using the security NetBIOS name here. Administrator. Okay. And which certificate we are going to use? The David certificate, which is the enrollment agent certificate. Okay.
Just a few spellings. I think the password for David.
Okay. Oh yeah, correct. What? Anyway, let me just again type it. On behalf administrator, and then name of the certificate, which is again David certificate, and let's change the password real quick. I think now all the things are looking good. Template, EA template, CA, secure CA, target is the domain controller. On behalf of the administrator, we are requesting a certificate and we are using the enrollment agent certificate. So let's enter. And looks like we have an error here. Let's see at least what is that? Certificate enable initial. The request was made on behalf of subject other than the caller here. So let me see what's the mistake here. Secure administrator. Ideally should work, but looks like the demo gods are not helping here. Administrator on behalf of maybe any mistake in the previous command. Yeah. David password correct. Yeah, looks correct, everything. Not sure why. Let's see.
I think template user.
Yeah, that's the mistake. Nice catch. Correct here. If you see. So now we are requesting template using the user template. We are requesting a certificate on behalf of administrator user. And why we can do that? Because we have the certificate of the enrollment agent here. Now quickly hit enter, and now we have the certificate of the domain administrator. And let's again, we can same thing. If we want to get the TGT, we can just use certify auth. Using the administrator certificate, we can just get the NTLM hash or the TGT of the domain administrator.
Very nice.
So yeah, these are the attacks, and let me just quickly show the prevention part. Yeah. So to preventing, let me just again go to the domain controller here. And I think the name of the certificate was EA template. I think what we can do here, I think the first option that we can enable is that if you go to properties, and I think there is enrollment, I think in the enrollment agents, if you see by default, it doesn't restrict any enrollment agent. So what we can do, we can enable the enrollment, restrict the enrollment rights, and we can define which enrollment agents which are the enrollment agents we want.
Okay.
So here instead of everyone, you can just add another one. Let's write, let's say maybe you have a high privilege user group.
Domain admins.
I don't have any, so I can use domain admins. But what sysadmins they can do, they can just create another group like enrollment agents group. Because if we are using a domain administrator for all of the purposes, then they might do some misconfiguration.
It'll be a bit risky.
Yeah, but in my case, I'm just because I don't have any such group, that's why I'm just using the domain administrators. But based on the requirement, they can enable domain admins as well. It's just a preference. And let's remove this everyone from here. And the certificate templates, let's add our own certificate template, which is the EA template here. So let's enable, let's choose this one and just remove this option.
All one.
Yeah, I think these are enough. If you apply OK, and let's go to the template settings. Yeah, manage, and if we go to the again, which is that I think, yeah, EA template,
Yeah.
properties. So if you see this one, in this case it's not set to this option, which we saw in the case of ESC1 and 2. So default setting is this one, so which is correct in our case. And let's go to the security property, and in this we look at the security descriptors. We have this again. What's it doing here? This doesn't make sense. So let's remove this one. Remove this one as well. Remove this one as well. I think, yeah, this is pretty cool, pretty okay. And if you see, the EKU set here is certificate request agent. Okay. That's why it's a high level, high privilege certificate template, because it can request certificate on behalf of anyone. Okay. I think the settings are set. Let's switch back to the Kali box and let's find it. And if you see, we don't have, okay, I think let's just enable the vulnerable flag, just so that it will not show all the certificate template and it will be easier to see. So let's do that. Yeah, so there is just one certificate which is vulnerable to ESC4. Let's keep it for some other podcast. But if you see, now the ESC3 also prevented here.
So EA template doesn't show up, yeah.
Yeah, EA template doesn't show up. So this is how you can prevent this ESC3, which is the exploitation of the certificate agent certificate template.
Okay, excellent. Do you have anything else on the slides?
Yeah, let's go to the slides. I don't think I have anything. Let's just quickly see if we don't miss anything for our viewers. Yeah. So practicals we have already seen. Yeah, this is the same thing that I just showed. And this manager approval I forgot, but yeah, you can enable this option. I think this should be a must.
Yeah, the manager approval flag.
Because in all the our devices we are enabling two-factor authentication. Yeah. Then for ADCS, why not?
For certificates as well, right?
Yeah, and these are the references they can use for like the tools that we have used, which is Certify and Certify for Windows if they want. And there are the two blocks which you can use. And this one is the important one, which is the research paper published by Will Schroeder and Lee Christian. Excellent work they have done. And it is helping defenders as well as ethical hackers to protect the domains.
Okay. Again, Shashi, if you want to give a disclaimer.
Yeah. So guys, again, all the attacks that I have shown you, these are the attacks I am performing in my local lab. So if you want to learn these attacks, please perform this in your local labs. Don't go to any of the vulnerable environment, because you are going to be in a trouble. So why do that?
Be ethical.
Be ethical.
Yeah.
And
all right. So we have come to the end of our podcast. Actually, we have had a fantastic session. We spoke about ADCS, the key components, how to create a certificate template, how to identify misconfigured certificate templates. So 3 attack vectors, ESC1, 2 and 3.
8 we have already discussed in the previous
podcast. So yeah, in the previous podcast we discussed about 8. In future, maybe very soon, we're going to be talking about ESC4, which in itself is a long one, I guess. So we are going to be talking about that. So stay tuned for that. Till then, If you enjoyed our podcast, please like, share, subscribe to our channel. We have a lot of exciting content that is coming in. Also, do follow us on different social media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook. We're pushing out a lot of interesting content there. Also, I'll just talk about our academy channel. We are releasing a bunch of courses there, right from Windows Red Teaming, the extreme version as well, web hacking, hardware, lots of crazy stuff on our academy channel. We are also training at conferences. So please follow us. If something good comes in, we're going to be the first ones to tell you guys. Right. So any closing thoughts, Shashi?
So we see how these attacks are easy to exploit, right? Yeah. So I think let defenders be aware about these kind of attacks so that they can easily protect their environments. And second thing is that we already have a Windows Red Teaming course available. So in there we have discussed about these attacks as well as other Active Directory attacks. So do check out that course as well. So yeah, guys, if you have any question, please comment in the comments. You can ask your questions and then we will be answering your question. So stay safe, stay secure, and yeah, thank you.